Welcome to Last First Date Radio, featuring interviews with experts in dating, relating, and mating in midlife. And now, here's your host, Sandy Weiner.
This is episode number 426 with Dane Stevens, the Neuro Trauma Healing Process to create your best relationship. Hello, everybody. I'm Sandy Weiner, and welcome back to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late for love and that a woman of value naturally attracts the respect and rewards she deserves in life and in love. And speaking of women of value, here is my new book. It is now available on Amazon Kindle and paperback. It's called Becoming a Woman of Value, How to Thrive in Life and Love. And it's filled with my personal stories, client stories, interviews like the one I'm having today with Dane. And it's just 30 tips to help you step more fully into your value. There's exercises in every chapter to help you progress and move forward, to show up, stand up, and speak up. And this week's tip on how to become a woman of value is from the book, and it is don't be a people pleaser. We tend to not even be aware often that we are doing things to please others and at the cost of really taking care of ourselves. And often when I start coaching with women, they have put themselves at the bottom of the list. And I know this is true for men too. I'm sure Dane can probably agree with me on this, that it's a people problem. It's not a woman problem, but we tend to, and I think especially women, are really raised to be kind and sweet at the cost of self-care and self-value. And so my challenge to you this week is to be aware every time you are saying yes to something when you really mean no. Take a breath. Tell someone you need to get back to them if you are not sure whether you want to say yes or no, because sleeping on it is always a good idea, in my opinion. And before I bring Dane on, I just want to let everybody know that I have a fantastic Facebook group. It's called Your Last First Date, and we have women over 40 in there who are really wanting to grow and learn and be positive in their approach to dating and really coming from a woman of value perspective. And so if you are looking for a really extraordinary group, if I may say so myself, join us at Your Last First Date. And now for my guest, Dane Stevens. He is the owner and director of An Extraordinary Life, and it's a company that promotes healing, awareness, and self-empowerment. He developed the Neuro Trauma Healing Process, NTHP, out of necessity when he had his nervous system dangerously compromised, which we're going to speak about today. And he's written a book called Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. Here it is. If you're watching on video, you can, oops, wrong book. You can see his book. Here we go. Right. And he is going to share with us how to reclaim your power. So welcome to the show, Dane. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
So Dane, I would love to hear, what was the catalyst that led you to developing the Neuro Trauma Healing Process?
Well, as you mentioned, it was out of sheer necessity. And for me, I was doing quite well in my life in all areas except for my relationships, which were short-lived, and then I would seek intimacy elsewhere. And after a while, I sort of realized, this is a pattern, something's going on here, which made me look into a childhood abuse issue, which I didn't know if I dealt with. And because this kept happening, I knew that I had to look into it. So I went to a few groups, and that didn't quite resonate with me, and did a bunch of different types of therapies, and nothing seemed to really get to the core or seem to be helpful. And then I was referred to a therapist / healer who she came highly recommended, and she tried to force the trauma out of me. And I knew very little of trauma, nothing about trauma really, and little about energy at that time. So when she asked about, forcing, I don't think she used those words. I think she used the term going for a home run. And who doesn't want to hit a home run? But she failed to tell me that you could hit a foul ball. And she tried to force the trauma out of me, and it messed me up. And I remember even like vividly, or even now, when that happened, she had me on the table and twisted in pretzel position and tell me to go there, go there. And I remember just being out in the ozone, like not even knowing which way was up. And when I came off the table, I felt these feelings of fear. And I just assumed it would subside and go away. And it did not. It persisted in my life. And I felt unstable. I had this like jittery platelet, like I was plugged into a 220 volt outlet. And my world started to crumble around me, the inside creating the outside. My world literally started to crumble around me, and I lost everything. And she stopped seeing me, partly because I ran out of money, but also because she didn't know what to do. She didn't know what she did, or didn't know how to fix it, so to speak. So I went on a mad search to figure out what the heck happened to me, how to get my life back. And it took me 5 years to figure out, to talk to somebody who understood what happened to me, first of all, who would explain it to me. And then it took a year later, I discovered a process. And it's not new. It's a left-right brain process, but it's never been developed. And when I hit on that, I knew, it was like, oh my God, I had made connection to that wounded part in me. So I knew it was there. But until I worked with somebody else, with it, I couldn't give myself what I needed. And that's where I developed the process from that, and it literally just flowed out of me. Feels very destined. I feel incredibly fortunate. And this work travels a long ways. It goes from healing into empowerment, because when you still those tapes, unfreeze and still those tapes that have been looping in your nervous system, it creates space within you. And that space naturally and automatically gets filled with what I'll call higher consciousness. And in that, we say that you get to live the life you love to live by simply being who you really are. You get to take these negative and limiting tapes and beliefs that have been looping inside of you who are not who you are, and remove them, bring them to resolution, and you get to be who you really are. So it's quite a profound process, and it's got very little to do with me or the facilitators. It shows us how we're working and gives us access, for maybe the first time, to what's going on inside of us, and therefore what we're creating in our world.
Well, I can't even imagine how scary it must have been to release that trauma and not have a container for it.
Yeah, I don't wish it on my worst enemy. On the other hand, I am here now, and I am very fortunate. So yeah, I'm just very passionate about sharing this with other people in a safe and gentle manner, which is key. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that really is. And I wanted to really highlight that, because I think many people start the process of healing in an unsafe manner. And then the facilitator doesn't really know how to get them from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've turned down clients who I knew were way out of my, area of expertise, who had such incredible trauma that I couldn't handle it. It was not something I could do. And I couldn't even go there.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been fair.
Yeah.
So, you have to go to the right people, especially if you've been deeply, deeply damaged.
Yeah.
So take us through the process. Like you started to touch on, it's right, left brain, kind of like EMDR. Is it?
Well, it is. It's more intimate in that way.
Okay.
It's through, I originally stumbled upon it through John Bradshaw's work, and it's left-right brain writing process, but it was never developed into a usable process for, therapists, counselors, and to be able to use it. It was just very general, and it was gross in that way. It's just a big allowance of letting out, but it never, it didn't allow you to travel anywhere. So, or have a sense of control over it, should I say. So now this process has been developed in a way that you can make that intimate connection. And it's really great, because my job ultimately is teaching people how to love themselves. And in order to love yourself, you have to, first of all, get to know yourself. And you talked about, being able to work with certain people and not with others. While there's not a person this couldn't help, it's not for everybody. And there's a couple of prerequisites. One is you have to be open-minded because it's abstract work, and that left brain, which has been in control for so long, wants control and does not want to lose control, like to lose control, and therefore will try to convince you, oh, this can't work, or we can't do this, we're unfixable, or we don't have time, or we don't have money, or all that stuff. Those voices that'll get in your way and keep you from moving forward. So just the willingness to be open-minded is the first thing. And the second one is to be open to the possibility that you're completely responsible for your life, because this work will show you how you've been creating your life. And we have to, I have to explain that, because it's not blame. And that can sound like it's my fault. And that's not at all what we're saying. Somebody who was sexually abused as a child did not ask for that consciously, did not, might have been drawn in, but that's a whole other conversation. But to understand that experience is still looping inside of you now. And therefore, it's your responsibility, because it's going on inside of you, still happening inside of you. That's the degree of responsibility. And that's how you're creating this negative pattern in your life, whether it be chronic pain or eating issues or an addictive behavior or even depression. It's something looping, stuck in your nervous system, unprocessed, which we help you to give access to. And like we spoke earlier, safety is so key. And this process is great because it's all coming from you. So you're not going to be given anything you can't handle. That being said, you'll want to work with a facilitator in the start. And we train facilitators to do this work, but it's not just a matter of doing a number of hours and then you're able to work with people. When you gain traction, and what traction means is having a consistently positive and healthy relationship with the life inside of you. So when you gain traction and come to a place of wholeness inside of you, that's when you can work with other people. So it's pretty strict on that, because you're dealing with the subconscious mind. So, but it's just so effective and so obvious and needs to be known about. So.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in unlocking the right side of the brain. I'm an artist, and I have taught from the book, drawing on the right side of the brain.
Betty Edwards.
Edwards.
We quote her in our book, as a matter of
fact.
Do
you?
Okay. Fabulous. Yeah.
I'm actually teaching high school art again for the first time in many, many, many years. And I'm doing it because I need to access that part of my brain too, because I do this work all day. Yeah. But it is so important, and we tend to see things, but we don't really see them. We see them the way we were taught to see them. Yeah. Yeah. And, but I want to highlight what you said about responsibility for our life, because it is something people really struggle with. And one of the questions I ask when I go on a date is, what did you learn from your last relationship? What did you learn from your marriage ending? What did you learn about yourself? And often they'll just say, it takes two, and she was horrible, and it was just like, women suck, it's
usual.
Right. And it's, so I will go back to, you chose her and you chose to stay. Right. What have you learned? Yeah. If I didn't do that work, I'd be stuck back where I was before my marriage ended. Yeah. And it's not, again, it's not to blame or shame. It's really to show you the way. It's if you can connect the dots and see, okay, now I get to be an adult here and take responsibility and actually have the power, because you spoke before about empowerment. It is so empowering to do this work, because you get to create a different ending. You don't stay stuck, which is where so many people are. Right.
And, like you say, that responsibility, when we understand that we are creating, that's power. And, blame, as we all know, is giving our power away, saying that we don't have any chance. And people are at where they're at. You have to acknowledge where you're at and start where you're at. But when you get that and can swallow that bitter pill in the start of knowing that you are creative, that you can't help it. And that relationship was perfect. It could not be any other way.
Yeah.
So when we can accept that, like you say, and see the pattern, and once you see the pattern, then you can go inside. And with this work, it's fascinating because we have learned that unless we can give it to ourselves, we can't get it out there.
Yeah, it's really true.
So it's, when we can love ourselves, it'll just show up. When we can accept ourselves, we get accepted. When we respect ourselves, we get respect. And we tell our clients often, there's nothing to do. Life is an inside job. And yeah. So if you can understand that it comes from the inside of you, that as hard as it may be in the beginning, that's where you get to really step into your power and be the person that you are, be the person you're meant to be, and connect with a person that brings out the best in you. So I actually have my other half, Annie B. It's been an interesting story. She's a senior facilitator of this work, and not everybody can facilitate this work. But she was my high school sweetheart, and we had a 25-year break, and we don't remember saying goodbye. And after I started this work a couple of years into it, we reconnected, and it's been, I say effortless, just because it feels so right. And that's been, the biggest, I say the biggest positive, but the biggest huge manifestation in all this. I'm in a relationship that is just so loving and so right, and it's based on growth. And we both take responsibility, which allows us to grow together and bring out the best in each other. So
That's great. Well, I was just going to ask you if you have a story to share of how this works. So you had done this work, and then tell us a little more about
Okay.
how this relationship evolved and how the work was responsible.
Yeah. It's a cool story. I was in a relationship. I was down in California at this point where this all happened, and it was not a healthy relationship. I was, struggling for my life, sort of thing, still going through all this stuff, and it was very tumultuous and up and down, and it just wasn't healthy. So I stumbled upon this book in Ojai, California, if you know where that is.
Mm-hmm.
I was living there at the time. And like I say, I made that connection. It was just such a huge aha moment. Oh my God, I've connected to this wounded part. And it took me about a year to find somebody who would do this work. I talked to counselors and therapists, and nobody knew this work, and nobody did it. And I tried to talk people into doing it with me. Nobody would do it. So finally, and it's ironic, literally across the street from me, I found somebody who had done this work and was willing to work with me. So we did the work, and the process really, flowed out of me through there months later. And when you make this connection, you make that connection to higher consciousness. As Dr. Bradshaw says, the wounded child becomes the wonder child. So through this healing, I started to make a connection to wisdom. So I was asking questions and so on. And my guidance was to move back to Canada. So I was in a relationship, and it was, even though it wasn't healthy, I was still a committed relationship, but I decided I needed to follow this guidance, and I did. And we ended up breaking up. And within 2 months of coming back to this, I'd sent the previous relationship was breaking up and getting together over 4 years or whatever it was, or 3 years. And in one of those times, I sent a Facebook message to Anne, because I realized, doing some soul searching at that point, and I realized, I didn't treat her that good. And so I sent her a Facebook message. And that was at least a year before I moved back to Canada. And I got back to Canada. I was here for about 2 months, and I got a message from her. She just received the message, the Facebook message, and she was just getting out of a relationship herself, a 25-year relationship. So we ended up getting together and met down at the beach and went for a 2.5-hour walk around Stanley Park, and haven't stopped since. And we don't remember saying goodbye, and it just feels right. And I can't explain this. sure, we've had our challenges, but we both do our work. And the one great thing about doing the neurotrauma healing process, it takes the ego. We can work with two people, and it takes the ego out of the picture. So it's not about he said, she said, or who did wrong, who did right. It's the higher picture, which can be very tough to do on your own. So it's been an amazing journey, and that's 8 years ago now, going on 8 years now. And it just feels right and good, and we love being with each other. We have a beautiful home on the lake in Soyuz, BC, and sometimes we still go, something must be wrong. We don't say that anymore, but it's just been it's been an easy relationship with that, which I have never experienced before, and it's been wonderful. And
Wow.
yeah, so
That's a great story.
Yeah.
There are many people who reconnect to past loves, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I actually had that happen to me, but it didn't work. So it was sort of more about unfinished business.
I was going to say like completion, huh?
Yeah, I had been with somebody on and off from high school to kind of age 21. And it didn't end well. It kind of petered out. And as my marriage was ending, I reached out to him. I had all these questions like, did you ever love me? Was I your only? Like, I just had no idea. And it was important for me to have some closure. And he was like, I totally loved you. I was terrible at communicating. And he was like, I'm sorry your marriage is ending. I'm in a happy marriage, and I think we'll be together forever. Like 2 years later, he got divorced, and
I'm sorry. Right.
And he reached out, and we connected, and I realized that we just didn't have a relationship. Like, it was sort of a very immature relationship back in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, and it never really evolved. And I think we just had grown in different directions. So it was a nice thought. But
I bet you're still friends.
Story.
Are you still friends?
No, it just kind of, I think that, we're just so different that he wanted to either be with me or completely cut off. That's what it kind of felt like. I don't know. I still think about him from time to time, but anyway, back to you. So let's
that's a good story. It brings the closure, and we never know what's going to come out of these things, though. Huh?
We don't, and I don't regret it.
Another door, and
I do think that it's important to follow those little breadcrumbs and have closure if you need it. Sometimes you don't get it. Sometimes you do. So let's talk about this process and how it applies to relationships and dating. I know you talked about your own story, but like if you were to work with somebody, tell us a little bit about how that works.
Okay. So we work with people one-on-one. We also do group stuff, and you can go to our website and look at that for the next event. But we work with people, and we give them access to their subconscious mind in a safe and gentle manner. And we don't go with any preconceived ideas. We let the process guide us. And you access the subconscious mind through emotion. So it's whatever holds a charge for you. So it's kind of like the issue that's in your life right now. This may sound not very nice to some people, but that too is perfect. Maybe it's the universe trying to get your attention. Maybe it's trying to draw you inside. And we give you access to that. And most people, a lot of people want to do their work, but don't know how. And there really hasn't been anything that is so certain, I'll say. Because when you do this work, what will come out is what's going on inside of you. And once again, the prerequisites of letting whatever wants to come out. But when you understand that you're always dealing with yourself, then when issues come up, hopefully, eventually, you'll change the language to, oh, thank you. And you'll go inside and find out what it is inside of you where you're not loving yourself, where you're not respecting yourself, where you don't feel deserving of a relationship or whatever that is. And you can bring that to resolution. And when I say resolution, it doesn't mean a coping skill. It's not a technique to overcome or try to blow through. And it's not a compensation or a medication. You get to bring it to resolution. So it's quite simply not there anymore. So when you're in a relationship, one way or another, we are putting out energy. If it's not a positive, healthy relationship, one way or another, we're putting out something that is tripping us up. So, and it's going to come out as a pattern some way. Some are harder to see than others. But when you go inside and start to create a dialogue with that inner life, and you give that part a voice, and in order to give that part a voice, you have to fully accept yourself. And that's how you allow what wants to come out. And when you make that intimate connection and learn what it is that you need and learn how to feed yourself what it is that you need, that's what makes life rich and fulfilling. And when you feel safe, when you feel loved, when you feel respected, that's what you attract. So I probably sound like a broken record already, but there's just so many variables in that. And the relationship you have with yourself, that inner life, is the foundation of all of your relationships. And that doesn't make sense logically. I want the perfect man. I want the hot woman. But until you can love yourself, you're probably going to be playing a game of exchange or, a degree of manipulation or want or need or what have you. So when you come to that place of safety, security, and you give yourself what you need, that's what will show up outside of you, as if by magic. So.
Yeah, I love that, and I totally agree. I do a lot of that work in my work as a dating coach as well.
Nice.
And my question is, so let's say one person has done this work and they're dating somebody who hasn't. What do you do?
So once again, we don't give any advice because even though I don't know what you need or what anything that's happening with you, but I do know that you do. So we would work with that person. And but if a person is working with somebody who doesn't, if you're on a growth pattern and that other person is not, there's a good possibility you're going to grow out of that, or you're going to grow apart. Like you talked about with that gentleman from your high school years. Maybe you're on a growth pattern and he wasn't. I don't know, but we are evolving. That's what's going on here. That is, I believe, the underlying drive of our existence. We are evolving, coming back to our nature, I believe. And so when you have a relationship that's based in growth, then, the sky is the limit. If you want somebody that's going to try and keep it the same and hold it the same and isn't in that growth, then, it may not work. That being said, if it feels right, it is. And your body is your guidance system. And you can have all the thoughts and you can talk yourself out of that relationship by thinking, oh, this can't work and he's not fit for me and he's not trying. And you stay tuned into your body and ultimately rise above the level of thought and you follow that guidance, that will guide you. And you tune into what feels good and what feels right. That's true. The body can't lie. This thing tells you untruths all day long.
That's right.
So that's where even if you're journaling, sometimes it can get that stuff out of you so you can feel more purely. And if you do the NTHP ultimate writing stuff and some of the exercises in there, you can get more clarity and understanding and follow that. So it's, I guess that's not really a clear answer, but, follow what feels right for you. And if you can have a relationship based on growth, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, no, I so agree with that. I think we often get into relationships with people who are so rigid and very ego-driven, and it's really hard to have a relationship with somebody who's fear-based, ego-driven. This is the right way, you're the wrong way.
Yeah.
But you've said some things that I want to also really highlight, which is that when people are struggling with something, it is a gift. It's a gift if we can pay attention to it. I remember for myself, boundaries were like coming at me all the time, like lack of boundaries. And I finally was like, okay, universe, I get it. I get it. I have weak boundaries or flimsy boundaries. I need to do something about this because it was driving me crazy. Like people were stepping on my boundaries, crossing my boundaries. And now I teach a course on boundaries because it became such a passion, right? Yeah, I mean, this work it's just so important, and being able to override the conscious brain of like the way that we have been programmed. And I think a lot of people don't trust their own intuition because they override it so much. So I love that you talk about the body. The body does not lie, and we often don't even pay attention to anything below the neck. You know, it's like, this is it. This is the safe place for a lot of people, is neck up, you know, just function from the head and ignore the rest. And man, when you tune into the body, everything changes.
And it's funny, like you say, for those people who their reference point is their thinking, life is going to continue to be tumultuous. And it's just going to be more and more the loop of chaos and not getting through that because, you know, it is our thinking literally that causes all of our problems. And the deep level of that is the subconscious, and understanding that there's a deep level of thinking that is stuff that is stuck in your body and your nervous system unprocessed. So yeah, to tune into your body is key. And I mean, if you can't feel, I mean, to feel good is, you know, you have to feel good, and you will never be fulfilled in your mind. You can never be fulfilled in your thinking. Not possible. So,
you don't think good, you feel good, right?
Yeah.
So Dane, this is such an important conversation. I would love to hear, the last question I have for you is, what are your final words of advice? I know you don't like to give advice, but if you could share some wisdom to somebody who wants to go on their first date, what would it be?
So observe, be patient, and go inside. And observe. You want to know what you're thinking, you're believing? Look into your world. So observe. And I say be patient. That also goes with accept yourself and what is going on. Don't judge it. And in that acceptance is accepting that it's a perfect outpicturing of what's going on inside of you. And do your inner work. I don't think you can skip the inner work. In my experience, you can't skip the inner work. I think that all these negative experiences and these unwanted behaviors and patterns that are tripping you up, maybe it's the universe's way of getting your attention. Maybe it's the universe's way of getting you to go inside. And when you go inside, even though it can seem daunting, the scariest part of fear is the anticipation of. Once you actually connect within, that fear dissipates. And I'm very passionate about this work because when you can give yourself what you need, you don't have to keep dealing with it. You don't have to stay on your toes and stay alert and act a certain way or be certain. You get to give yourself what you need to relax into life and let life. And if you do that inner work, you will be amazed, and you can have the relationship you want because it's inside of you. So,
and you're living proof, you know. Once you did this work, the relationship just happened. It happened effortlessly.
And you don't need to work a relationship. There's only one relationship you need to work at, and that's the one inside of you.
Yeah. I love this. I love this work. I love this conversation. And I think you're onto something really important here. So I encourage everyone to go to your website. So tell us where they can find you, and if you want to share any last words.
Yeah, they can go to danestevensonline.com. That's DANE Stevens, STEVENS, online.com. And there you can see what events we have. We do online events If you want to do the one-on-one, you can go to anextraordinarylife.ca. That's the NTHP website, anextraordinarylife.ca, and you can see all the different packages we have there for sessions. And and the book, of course, is Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life, is on Amazon. You can go there and get that, and it has the full process in it. You will want to work with a facilitator in the start. We don't keep our clients for long because you get to take the work over on your own because it's you. And once you gain that traction, you can take it over on your own. And like you said, it took me a little bit to write this book because you're dealing with the subconscious mind. And I didn't want to put it out there and have people get to a place where they couldn't handle or not get the results that they could get from this. But I couldn't keep it a secret. So if you need help, contact us. And we can help you to navigate through the maze of your subconscious mind and bring yourself to that place of awareness, that place of inner peace and connection. So, there is a magnificent life inside of you. Let it out. There's my parting words.
I love it. Thank you, Dane, for inspiring us with your wisdom today.
Thanks for having me, Sandy. Great to be here.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. And if you love us, please rate and review us wherever you listen to podcasts. And we hope you go on your last first date very soon.